Hi, this is Joe Getz of Kurant Cider in Pennsylvania, and you are listening to Cider Chat.
Episode 135. Hello and welcome to Cider Chat. My name is Ria Windcaller, and I am the producer and cider MC of this weekly podcast, where we speak with makers, cider enthusiasts, and folks within the cider trade from around the world. This week, we are catching up with Joe Getz of Kurant Cider. They just opened their new Taproom in Fishtown, a section of Philadelphia, and we're going to be talking to Joe a little bit about how that is going, and then follow up on a chat I had with him on my way down to CiderCon on a particular cider called Viejo. There'll be more on that in just a moment. A couple days ago, I was standing outside meeting up with my friend Al, who is going to be coming along on the Normandy tour. That's Normandy, France, on the cider tour happening the last week of September. And we were just talking about, our enthusiasm and not wanting to wish the summer away, because there's a lot of stuff happening in between now and then, of course. And we made this kind of little pack. So, Al, if you're listening, I'm still holding to it. I cannot wait. Actually, I want to do this with everybody on the tour, just to experience the moment when you bite into a peri-pear and you have that like juice running outside your mouth in that kind of like little kid way, and you realize that a peri-pear is really, really bitter, but also really sweet. And until you bite into one, you don't get that. You just don't get it. So I cannot wait to do that. Coming up, it's going to be the folks who are going are sending in their final like full deposit. But there is some space available if you got a hankering to go to Normandy and come along with us and taste cider and Porron and have some face-to-face with makers that I have been connecting with for a while now. Please come along. There is room to squeeze you in, no doubt. And it's not going to be a tight squeeze because that's not how I roll. It's going to be really easy. So you could bring someone else or just come by yourself. And don't worry, because in this tour, everybody becomes part of the same party. You could just go to ciderchat.com and go to the Totally Cider page there, and the form is right there, really easy. Or send an email to me, ria@ciderchat.com. You might not be able to hear it where you are. Hopefully you can, because there is some loud thunder coming up this valley here. So I'm going to just roll right into this main chat and get this podcast out to you so that you could have something to listen to while you are cruising to the beach this week, or maybe going skiing somewhere down in the high mountains of New Zealand or something like that, wherever you are having a good time. So let's now go to this main chat with Joe Getz of Kurant Cider of Poughkeepsie, Pennsylvania, and Fishtown, Philadelphia. Joe Getz was on this podcast a couple times already, and I'm pleased to bring him back. The first episode was number 14, so that was a while ago, and 82. But I've been following along with Kurant Cider to see how they're doing. They're based out in eastern Pennsylvania for the most part, and Joe is also the vice president of the Pennsylvania Cider Guild, from last that I have heard, unless that has changed. We didn't really talk about that, although he always is mentioning how well Pennsylvania is doing. Well, on my way down to CiderCon this past winter, tail end of January, I made it a point to stop in and hang out with Joe. And we had a hanging spell. It was a couple hours there taking a tour of the facility where they make their cider. They actually use a space at Free Will Brewing in Poughkeepsie, Pennsylvania. I do like that name, Pekursky. It's a nice area too, just all of Pennsylvania right and up to it. It's spectacular. Well, we sat down and then we went down into the barrel area, which is on the base floor of that. And you can see a couple photos of that I'm going to be posting to the show notes to this here episode 135. There's some big darn barrels down there. I mean, the whole basement, which is gigantic, is filled with barrels. And of course, he has it going on down there too. In this first segment of this here chat, we're going to be at the Pekursky location. This is on my trip down to CiderCon. And we had been talking for a while. We had done a tour of the whole facility. And now we were sitting at the bar. And he had brought out some of his cider. There was some of the B, which is in a can, also available on tap. And that's an off-dry cider that has some honey in it. And then there was the Earth cider. And the Earth is a hop cider. Both these are really pleasant. And, wouldn't you know it, classic Joe Getz, on my way out of there, he picked up like 2 giant cases and just went walking out all the way to my car. Again, there'll be a photo of that so you could see. I was pretty impressed. But also sitting at that table was this glass vase, really it's called the Porron, and that was filled with some cider too. And I was just wondering what was in there. So that's where I'm going to take you to the point where we finally got to that particular cider and my discovering of what Joe has been doing down in that barrel aging room for this past year. So can we try some of that barrel there? Let's try some of that barrel. That was like a little, one of those birds that kind of like barometer, right? A barometer bird.
Yeah.
So this is the barrel aged, huh?
Yeah.
You let me pour that out of there?
I am.
Awesome. Look at that. Here we go. Wow. I'm going to pour a little bit more in there.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, buddy?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to get some of that.
I can't get that out. I can't get
I
that
had
out.
some this morning.
Oh, you did? Okay.
A little breakfast cider.
Yeah, look how that's kind of rich and viscous. So this is, say the name for me again.
Viejo.
Viejo. Really nice nose. Again, this is a sour cider. Have that wafting forward, that sourness, light, the wild. Smell the terroir, really. Can you smell that? Smooth, very light, delicate, lovely. I just want to kind of meditate on this for a second. Wow, I did not expect that. So this has been in the barrel for over a year.
Yeah.
This is absolutely delicious. Really nice balance with the wood on there. It's almost like you are drinking it out of a wooden cup, but the wood's not like dominating it. But you feel like you're like in the barrel. It's like this really warm coziness in the mouth. And that is not something I normally experience. And drinking cider to me is an experience. It has to give me all the overtures of an apple. But here, knowing some of the history, I feel like I'm back down in your cellar, leaning against the barrel. And it's this really softness. It's a soft mouthfeel that is so unique, actually. I haven't had that from a lot of sour ciders at all. This really softness, and that's that nice aging there. The sour itself is really balanced. It's a full mouth experience. Finish is very clean. It's really has a lot of nice clarity in it. Just the subtlety of the sourness. So I'm not thinking that I'm in Australia at all. This is like a really sipping cider, one that I would have personally I would save this after I've had a couple ciders. It pair well with food. It clears the palate. It's something that you kind of meditate on because you could feel that it's really been conditioning for a while. That oak is so soft, and that's that Chardonnay barrel too, right? So you have that really softness there. Wow, man. And I love how it has the viscosity. It's a heavy, but it finishes so light, and it's kind of a little like a sidra. It can be really kind of like dancing on your palate, but this dances in a different way. It's like a slow waltz in your mouth. I like that. Really nice. Bravo.
Yeah, I'm really proud of how that blend came out, and it's fun. I didn't do it today, but sometimes even tasting all of the barrels separately, because this is a blend of everything, they're all really different. So there are some that are more acidic and have more bite.
So you blended this a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, nice blending.
There are a couple of barrels, like I said, are really bitey or more bitey. There are some that are really clean, actually, that aren't really too wild at all. So just the blend of all the things together.
Yeah.
The soft oak of the Chardonnay, I think, is great with the apple. Like I said, it's the single varietal Winchester juice. I think the apple is the cider. Every ounce of character is from that apple. So, it's an apple that I was lucky to get my hands on. It's definitely not a prevalent cider making apple, and I hope the juice becomes more available. It's still super hard to get, but.
That's amazing. That's an amazing cider right there. That is, I know that you blended it, but man, that would go so well with food. It would just like kill it, spot on, like tapas and all that, but like your classic American meal. I can imagine having this with pork chops.
Yeah.
Really pull that out in such a nice way. I would have it with a freaking hamburger, the right medley on the hamburger. It'd be great. Wow. Seafood. Yeah. Wow. The softness is just blowing me away. That Winchester is just what an exciting little discovery for you.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's been great sort of bringing we're watching these barrels change over time and grow and finally be ready, and I cannot wait to bottle this cider.
The uniqueness of it is just, it shows you the dimension that the apple could go into. Wow. Much deeper. There's a lot of depth into that cider. You just feel it in the glass too. So what's the ABV on that?
What is the ABV? Yeah, I want to say it's around 7.5.
You're not tasting. There's no heat at all.
Yeah.
Which should be related to like alcohol, and there's absolutely no heat at all. It's so smooth. It's smooth. It's that experience of smoothness is that you get out of a barrel, but you're not consumed by the oak. It's just killer. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think any other barrel, any bourbon or whiskey would be too aggressive.
Absolutely, yeah.
Overpowering. Not to say that wouldn't be a good cider as well, but it would be very, very different. Like I said at the beginning, it's important to me to always have the apples sort of be the leader. And a nice neutral white wine barrel lets the apple do its thing and then rounds it out.
I dig about this is you're like really tasting Pennsylvania terroir here.
It is.
That is it. And it's kind of like Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It's just that, it's have a little taste of cake, have some good food, have a little, warmness. We're friendly people. We're a big state. We're a beautiful state. it just speaks to the land and the people here in a way that is, and the land here is just so beautiful. I don't think there's many this is what the first Pennsylvania cider with any terroir that I've tasted. And I am very happy for that I had that with you, Joe Getz.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. You are maybe the third or fourth person to ever taste that cider. So
wow. And just to follow up on my own comment in there, I do want to say at that trip down to Maryland, I was able to then taste a lot of Pennsylvania ciders, and I'm very impressed. There is a high amount of culinary apples in Pennsylvania, and there are cider apples growing, and there is a passion like nobody's business from one end, from Pittsburgh all the way out to Philadelphia, and that is one big state. It's like one of the biggest states in the Union here in the U.S., where they are really ramping up the cider production. So keep your eye on Pennsylvania. Good stuff going on there. Follow Cider Culture. That's like with Mary Bingham and Emily Kovach, who I've had in last week's podcast. That was Emily that I was judging cider with down at the Big E cider competition. You should listen to that. We were judging Best in Show. It was quite interesting. And I've learned quite a bit more about Pennsylvania cider, so I'm really thankful for that. Now we're going to go to another conversation where I followed up a little bit with Joe, finding out how's it going at this Fishtown location. That's Fishtown section of Philadelphia.
Yeah, we're super excited. It took us a little over a year and a half to get the building open from when we purchased it, so we're having a super good time just finally sharing it with everybody. We get a ton of foot traffic, and it's right on public transit, so it's easy to get to.
I didn't expect anything less, that it was going to be a hit, but what are they serving? So I asked Joe that question.
We're going to pour up to 6 of our own ciders. We're opening with 4 right now. We're starting production in that building hopefully next week, so we'll add some more ciders. So we have draft, we have our bottles, the Viejos available there for the first time ever to the general public. We also have 4 lines of local craft beer. We have local craft spirits. We have a cocktail menu, local wines as well. So we're kind of covering all bases in the taproom there.
Knowing how well cider pairs perfectly with food, and also knowing that this isn't a huge space, I was kind of wondering about food. And I saw on the menu a hot dog, but I didn't quite see pretzels. And Philly is renowned for pretzels. So this is what Joe said.
The Philly special hot dog is on a pretzel. So yeah, pretzels are definitely a big thing for us there. We wanted to do a simple menu. We don't have like a full kitchen, so we were kind of limited for food, and we thought, hey, what can we do? And hot dogs are pretty easy to make, and then you can put lots of cool stuff on them and make them really fun.
This reconverted 19th century carriage house has 2 locations where you could sip cider. The downstairs location and the attic, which is upstairs. And I was kind of curious, kind of in that Uber way in downtown Philly, was there any kind of like access to the outdoors at the same time? And this is what Joe said.
Yeah, the front of the building is basically one giant garage door, so the whole thing just rolls up when it's nice out.
Kurant Cider makes all their product at their location in Poughkeepsie, Pennsylvania. So I was wondering, what are they going to be doing at this new tap room? Is there any room to actually make cider there?
Yeah. All the main production stays where it is. We put in sort of a test kitchen, small production in the new tap room. So basically everything we make down there will stay in the tap room. and be exclusive to the building.
So if you make it on your must-do list now, this is what Joe says about the potential of possibly seeing him there.
For the foreseeable future, if the building is open, you're probably going to see me in it.
When I had met up with Joe earlier and we had tasted the Viejo, I didn't quite know how much he had. So I was a little bit curious. Is there any left? Was it like just sold out? Did he make like a little 5-gallon barrel?
Yeah, we actually made a lot of that. Or not a lot, but a fair bit. We had almost 200 cases of that after we packaged it. So we definitely sold a lot. The first weekend we're doing a full Porron table service at the bar. So when someone sees someone else get one and do the pour and all the theatrics that go with it, it's kind of addictive, and then everybody wants one. So
in preparing for my follow-up call with Joe, I was looking at the website and I saw that the Viejo was listed there and that they're selling it in 750 ml bottles for only $20, which is an amazing price considering how long it had been barrel aged and how much care this guy had been like hovering over this cider. You could really taste it too, all the love and care that he put in it. But I was wondering, how are they serving it?
We're pouring it in the traditional Spanish way out of a Porron, and they are fragile. We're finding out quickly. We had a few casualties. Yeah, so it's basically like kind of like a wine decanter, clear glass. Has this sort of spout on the front, like a super thin, like tea kettle spout. That's also glass, and it's just designed to pour cider in a super tiny stream from a really long distance. The spouts especially are super, super delicate. So we did break a few over the weekend. I had to order some more, but we got them.
There will be a photo of a Porron in the show notes to this here episode 135, so you can see what it looks like, and probably also a link there if you want to get your own, where you could have your own party. I have been at different events where people are like lifting it high over their head and seeing who could kind of kick it back. Kind of a crazy way to drink cider, but in Ciderville, we're kind of crazy. In fact, I was out at the Northman, a couple of years now, it seems, and I remember seeing Ambrosia, who I'm sure is still doing that. She's a bartender there, and I think a couple of the other bartenders were doing it too, and they were just, pouring that Porron and getting everybody in the whole bar really riled up. So it's fun. That's part of cider. It's really, really fun. So you should check out this Fishtown location in Philadelphia. They are open from Wednesday through Sunday, typically open at 4 o'clock. On the weekends, they open up a little bit earlier. And they're going to be making small batch ciders there. And I really like supporting Kurant because Kurant Cider has really supported this here podcast from the get-go. When I put out to Ciderville, hey, commercial cider makers, can you help support this podcast? The first person, and actually the first cidery for quite a while who stepped forward, was Kurant Cider. So I am following their trajectory, really wish them the best of luck. In fact, Joe is also going to be putting out a podcast. It's going to be called The Business of Fermentation, which is about the business of fermentation, kind of like what it says. So he's trying to fit that in, so I hope that he gets it launched, because knowing what it takes to make a podcast, it's kind of like barrel aging Viejo. It's that much time. So thanks again for Kurant, and thanks to Joe Getz. Now, don't forget before I leave you that there is still time to sign up for that Totally Cider tour to Normandy, France. Just go to ciderchat.com and check out the Totally Cider page. And wait for it, at the end of this little ditty, right before we fully sign off, you're going to hear a couple words from Joe Getz, a nice little quote from him. But in the meanwhile, this is Rhea Windcaller signing off for now. Looking forward to seeing you in Ciderville.
And then you have to be humble enough to look for the inspiration, but just crazy enough to execute something.
Yeehaw!